The headline blazed across every digital screen, a stark white font against a shocking crimson background. 12-year-old David versus Goliath MOM. Kid sues mother over alleged sham marriage to tech mogul dad. 12-year-old Ethan clutched a well-loved, slightly battered copy of The Hobbit, its pages worn from countless readings. He wasn't interested in fantastical dragons or hidden treasures at the moment. The real-life drama unfolding in the sterile, echoing courtroom felt far more surreal. He was here, the unlikely architect of this legal earthquake, the boy who dared to accuse his own mother of the ultimate betrayal. Across the aisle sat his mother, Isabella Moreau, a vision of sophisticated elegance in a tailored charcoal suit. Her perfectly styled blonde hair framed a face that usually radiated an almost unnerving composure. Today, however, a flicker of something akin to fear danced in her icy blue eyes. Ethan tried not to meet her gaze. It felt like staring into the heart of a storm. The lawsuit was unprecedented. Ethan, with the unwavering support of his paternal grandmother, was arguing that his parents' seemingly fairy tale marriage, which had dissolved in a highly publicized and incredibly lucrative divorce 3 years prior, was nothing more than a meticulously crafted scheme. The sole purpose? To extract a king's ransom from his father, the reclusive tech billionaire Julian Vance. The gut-wrenching hook? Ethan wasn't motivated by greed or some childish desire for revenge. He was doing this for his dad. Julian Vance was a ghost of the vibrant, eccentric inventor Ethan remembered. The man who had built him a treehouse that could rival a Swiss chalet, who had patiently taught him the intricate art of building model airplanes, now existed in a quiet, almost catatonic state. The divorce had shattered him, leaving him adrift in a sea of melancholic silence. Ethan had watched his father slowly fade, convinced his parents' love story had simply run its course. But Ethan knew the truth. He had stumbled upon it, a secret so cold and calculated it had ignited a fire of righteous anger in his young heart. It had begun with a seemingly innocuous request. Julian, in a rare moment of lucidity, had asked Ethan to help him organize some old photographs and documents stored on a dusty external hard drive. While sifting through the digital clutter, Ethan had discovered a hidden folder labeled Project Nightingale. His curiosity piqued. He'd used his father's ridiculously obvious password, their anniversary date, and unlocked a Pandora's box of deceit. Inside, he found a series of encrypted files. With the help of his tech-savvy grandmother, Eleanor, they managed to decrypt them. What unfolded was a chillingly detailed contract, dated months before his parents' lavish wedding. The signatories were Isabella Moreau and a representative from an anonymous offshore entity. The terms were laid out with cold precision. A marriage to Julian Vance for a minimum of 3 years, culminating in a divorce settlement that included a substantial percentage of his vast fortune. Isabella's reward? An eye-watering sum, payable into various untraceable accounts upon the finalization of the divorce. Ethan's world fractured. The idyllic memories of family holidays, the bedtime stories read with loving voices, the seemingly genuine affection between his parents. It all felt like an elaborate performance. His mother, the woman who had kissed his boo-boos and cheered him on at every school event, had allegedly entered his father's life with a premeditated plan to rob him of his wealth and his happiness. He had confronted Isabella, his small voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Initially, she had dismissed his accusations as childish fantasy. But when Ethan presented her with copies of the contract, her carefully constructed facade crumbled. She hadn't denied the agreement. Instead, she had offered a twisted rationale, speaking of past hardships, of needing to secure her future and Ethan's, painting herself as a victim of circumstance forced to make difficult choices. But Ethan saw only his father's quiet suffering. He remembered the light that had gone out in his eyes, the joy that had been replaced by a hollow emptiness. He knew his father had loved Isabella, had trusted her implicitly. The betrayal, Ethan realized with a chilling certainty, had broken something fundamental within him. And so, here he was, a 12-year-old boy in an oversized suit, taking on his seemingly untouchable mother. Not for personal gain, but to try and reclaim the father he had lost. The courtroom became Ethan's battleground. Isabella's legal team, a phalanx of impeccably dressed and ruthlessly efficient lawyers, argued that the contract was irrelevant, a youthful indiscretion, a contingency plan never truly acted upon. They presented Isabella as a devoted wife and a nurturing mother, highlighting her charitable work and her supposed contributions to Julian's life. But Ethan's lawyer, the formidable Ms. Anya Sharma, presented the evidence with surgical precision. The contract, the meticulously documented financial transactions, the timeline of events, it all painted a damning portrait. Ethan took the stand, his small stature contrasting sharply with the imposing witness box. He spoke with a quiet determination that belied his age, his voice surprisingly steady despite the nervous flutter in his stomach. He recounted the moment he found the contract, the shock and confusion that followed, and the profound change he had witnessed in his father. "My dad used to tell the silliest jokes," Ethan said, his voice a little thick with emotion. "Now he mostly just stares at the TV with the sound off." Isabella watched her son, her face an unreadable mask. Shame? Regret? Ethan couldn't tell. He only knew the weight of his words, the enormity of the accusation he was leveling against the woman who had once been his whole world. The trial stretched on for weeks, each day revealing more layers of the intricate deception. The media frenzy intensified, every detail dissected and debated across news channels and social media platforms. Public opinion was sharply divided, some condemning Ethan for his seemingly audacious act, others hailing him as a brave truth seeker. Julian Vance, initially reluctant to participate, eventually agreed to testify. His appearance in court was met with a hushed reverence. He looked frail, his eyes holding a deep, almost unbearable sadness. He spoke softly, his voice barely above a whisper, recounting the early days of his courtship with Isabella, the joy he had felt, and the slow, creeping sense of unease that had eventually consumed him. When asked about the contract, his voice cracked. I had no idea," he murmured, his gaze fixed on his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "I loved her. I believed she loved me." The impact of his testimony was palpable. Even Isabella's seemingly impenetrable legal team appeared momentarily shaken. The closing arguments were delivered with passionate intensity. Ms. Sharma argued that the evidence unequivocally demonstrated a calculated and sustained effort to defraud Julian Vance, a profound betrayal of trust that had inflicted immeasurable emotional and financial damage. Isabella's lawyer countered that the contract was a youthful folly, and that Isabella had genuinely cared for Julian during their marriage, her actions ultimately aimed at securing a stable future for her family. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. The courtroom was packed to capacity, the air thick with anticipation. Judge Thompson, a woman known for her sharp intellect and unwavering impartiality, began to read her findings. She meticulously reviewed the evidence, acknowledging the existence of the prenuptial contract and the undeniable correlation between its terms and the financial outcomes of the divorce. She stated that while the court recognized the complexities of human relationships and the difficulty in definitively ascertaining intent, the preponderance of evidence strongly suggested that the marriage was entered into, at least in significant part, with the primary objective of financial enrichment. While the court stopped short of declaring the marriage a complete sham, Judge Thompson ruled decisively in Ethan's favor on the grounds of fraudulent inducement and breach of fiduciary duty. She ordered Isabella Moreau to return a substantial portion of the divorce settlement to Julian Vance, citing the clear evidence of the prearranged financial agreement. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. Ethan felt a wave of exhaustion and a strange sense of quiet triumph wash over him. It wasn't the fairy tale ending he might have once imagined, but it was justice. It was an acknowledgement of a truth. As the courtroom emptied, Ethan walked over to his father, who sat quietly, a faint but genuine smile gracing his lips. Eleanor embraced them both, tears streaming down her face. "Dad," Ethan whispered. Julian looked down at his son, his eyes filled with a warmth Ethan hadn't seen in years. "You did it, son," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You were so brave." Isabella watched them from across the room, her face pale and etched with a profound sadness. There were no triumphant pronouncements from her legal team. The verdict, while not a complete financial devastation, had exposed her actions to the world, irrevocably damaging her reputation and significantly impacting her wealth. In the aftermath of the trial, life began to slowly mend. Julian, with the returned funds and the profound knowledge of his son's unwavering loyalty, started to emerge from his shell. He reconnected with old friends, spent countless hours with Ethan, and even dusted off his old inventions, a spark of his former brilliance flickering back to life. Ethan, despite the emotional toll of the ordeal, felt a deep sense of peace. He had spoken the truth, and in doing so, he had helped his father find his way back to the light. Years later, Ethan, now a young man with a bright future ahead of him, sat with his father on the porch of their revitalized home, overlooking a garden Julian had lovingly tended. They were playing a game of chess, the quiet clicking of the pieces a comforting sound. "You know," Julian said, looking at his son with pride in his eyes, "that was a pretty remarkable thing you did back then, Ethan." Ethan smiled. "I just wanted my dad back." "You got him back, son. You truly did." The scars of the past remained, a reminder of the darkness they had navigated. But they were overshadowed by the enduring love and unbreakable bond between a father and his son. And now, it's your turn to weigh in. What are your thoughts on Ethan's extraordinary actions? Do you believe a child that young could possess such courage and conviction? Have you ever witnessed or heard of similar situations where love and loyalty defied seemingly insurmountable odds? Share your opinions and reactions in the comments section below. We're eager to hear your perspectives on this incredible story. If you are captivated by Ethan's bravery and the power of his love for his father, please give this video a big thumbs up. Your engagement helps us reach a wider audience and share more compelling stories that explore the complexities of family and the triumph of the human spirit. Finally, if you want to stay tuned for more mind-blowing narratives and thought-provoking content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release new videos that will keep you on the edge of your seat and spark meaningful conversations. Thank you for watching Ethan's story. We truly appreciate your time and your engagement. We look forward to reading your comments and seeing you in our next video.